Welcome back to the Geelong Region Soccer Show podcast. And our first guest of the show for tonight is the new president, or the newly appointed president of Geelong Galaxy United, AARON PETTMAN. AARON, welcome to the show.
Tonch, thanks for having me. Thank you.
Now, first of all, let me take this opportunity just to thank you on behalf of the club, to thank you and everyone at Geelong Galaxy, because Galaxy was the first club to really come out and support us this year, the Geelong Region Soccer Show podcast. So we thank you so much for that.
It's important.
Yeah, and it's also the first club episode podcast. So, mate, you've got the rare, I guess, accolade, if you like, for want of a better word, of having been one of, if not the only person in Geelong that I can think of that has been president of two clubs. You were a previous president of Lara United, and now Geelong Galaxy. First of all, congratulations on that. I'm not too sure if there's anyone out there in listening that is aware of anyone else, but that's quite a rare feat. And, mate, how would you compare running the two clubs? Because they're two vastly different clubs.
Well, that's right. That's right. And I think that's why, I decided that I'd step into that role when it became vacant. Because, Galaxy in itself is quite a unique club, being only a female-only club. And, when you've got daughters and you participate, I was coaching for a few years now with Ryan and come across and coached last year. So, the two clubs are very, very different. One's a sort of a high performance sort of, elite sort of style of interaction with players and what their expectations and standards might want to their standards are. Whereas, Lara was a very much a community-based club. We still had that endeavour when we were there to grow the club and your pursuit of excellence and that sort of stuff is still the same. But
I'm intrigued. Do you approach it in the same way, in the same manner, or like I dare say at Lara United, you had a lot of volunteers, a lot of people that do it. It's a community club, and that's what it is. Yeah. And even though the scope of things are so much bigger, attracting volunteers is always hard, no matter where you are. But at Galaxy, as you said, it's a high performance, so it's not necessarily quantity you're after quality. And so do you approach it as the leader of the off-field administration in a slightly different way?
Yeah, definitely. You definitely have to look at things from a different perspective, and there are some similarities. Like it's a football club and it needs to be managed and administrated. But from that perspective of that sort of elite stuff, you're always looking for different ways to be creative and introduce programs, maybe, or whether it be high performance training or coaching, strength and conditioning, sports psychology, and that sort of stuff, which is very, very different to a community-based club. You wouldn't be looking at that type of thing. So from that perspective, it is very, very different.
Now, we're only week 2 of the season, of the Victorian Premier League women's season. Unfortunately, not the result today, 2-0 against a tough Clifton Hillside. But last week was a great performance. So it's one win, one loss at the moment for the seniors. But let's turn our attention now to the juniors, because the juniors are doing really, really well, the 13s, the 15s and the 17s. Tell us a bit about their season.
Well, so far, our juniors and that whole system is flying. That football department have done a really, really good job at looking after those kids for the last few years. We've had a really great successful trial period where we've introduced a few kids from other clubs, but retained quite a number of our own, which is great. But so far, the under-13s, they haven't lost a game as yet. The under-17s haven't lost a game as yet. And the under-15s are pretty close to top 4 position as well. So, all the teams are relative sort of, so that's sort of second. The 13s and 17s are anyway. The 15s, unfortunately, had a loss yesterday against a pretty formidable sort of Preston. But the under-17s are very, very strong. They're going to be very difficult to beat this year, those girls. But
is it fair to say, outside of the NPLW competition, that Geelong Galaxy United are probably the best performing junior side?
I would think so, yeah. I definitely would think so. I think that if you look at the results so far, for those 3 outfits, it was really great a few weeks get back to sort of have 3 wins against Football Victoria, their FE side. That they sort of seem to be like the rival that all teams sort of pip themselves against, sort of thing. So we walked away from a home game against those with 3 wins that day, and that was pretty amazing for the girls. Everyone's pretty up and about for to have happen. So I think that junior system's done really, really well, and there's still plenty of growth there. There's still plenty of room to move, even with that 17s, and they've had some formidable wins, like 6-0 yesterday against Preston and 10-0 the week before. So they're a bit of a juggernaut at the moment. So yeah, it's definitely a good place to be with those girls. Yeah.
Now, speaking of that, a good place to be. Unofficially, we know we've just heard that half a dozen girls have been selected into Victorian teams. Now we can't announce that just yet because it still hasn't been officially announced by Football Victoria. But I guess that's an acknowledgement of some of the good stuff that's happening here, some of the good players that are being produced. A lot of that obviously has to come down to coaching. You know, you've coached in the past, you've played in the past, so you know the importance of having quality coaches. And after this, we're catching up with Jake Butler, who's another coach, the coach of the senior women's team, who's been coach of 2 different clubs here in Geelong. But let's go look at the 13s, the 15s, and the 17s, and the reserves coaches. Here's a chance to sort of talk about some of those coaches phenomenal. And what they've been achieving.
Yeah, they've been I suppose, if you look at how the system's grown, our 17s coach, Nico Nikolovsky, he was been here a few years now. He's been working with that group of players through under 15s into under 17s. So he's got all of that unity there. They're very different coaches. If you look at the 3 coaches from 13s, 15s, and 17s, very different coaching styles.
Who are the coaches of the 13s and 15s?
We've got Robert Andrews, who's come on this year for the 13s, and we've got Camilo, who was at the club last year as well, who's moved up from the 13s to the 15s with that playing group as well. So a little bit of familiarity, which is really, really good for the girls, and very different coaching style. So yeah, they've been able to keep those girls together, and that's, I suppose, why that football department is working so well.
And now we obviously know that the junior girls play on a Saturday. More often than not, the senior women play on a Sunday, although that can vary according to the fixtures. But how important is that then, that integration between the 17s and, let's say, the reserves, or the 17s and the seniors? Some girls obviously play a couple of games on the weekends, but the reserves, let's talk about the importance of the reserves team as far as the development of some of those players that are ready to step up to senior football, but maybe not just 100% ready.
Yes, definitely. So we looked at the start of so Tony Hoax is taken on the reserves again this year, which is fantastic. Another Geelong name.
An institution,
isn't it? Institution, that's right. So we had a look at the start of the year of how we could sort of, emulate maybe an under-20s or a development type of squad with the girls sort of coming out of the under-17s last year that hit top age. And given our women in the VPL, we don't have that under-20s NPL for them to move into. So we sort of looked at that and how that will work. We didn't retain a lot of those girls. Obviously, they wanted to go and pursue NPL somewhere at a sort of a top age, that under-20s. We've retained a couple of them. They've been fantastic. So transitioning those 17s that those girls that want a little bit more exposure to senior football has been quite easy. So you've got a couple of coaches there that are very mindful of the development of those juniors. You've got an under-17s coach that's very mindful of the future of the club and the future of those players. So we've already had young Ali Walsh from the under-17s play goals last week for us. Fortunately, Steph was unavailable, so she was fantastic. So we'll look at what's best for those players. We've got to look at their load. The girls for the juniors train 3 nights a week with us. Some of those are still engaging with different sort of academies and programs outside of it, or they might be at Western Heights, finishing school there. So, we have to look at the load, but really important. So maybe, in April we might see a few more girls sort of come through and showcase their skills.
It certainly seems like this year has started really, really well on the field. The coaching side of things are done fantastically. Now, a club that plays at any level like this obviously has to have the support of good sponsors. And just looking around, and there's some real blue chip sponsors that have jumped on board with Galaxy this year, notably Viva Energy and now APCO as well, which are absolutely fantastic to have institutions in the local community. But there are lots of other sponsors. Here's an opportunity to sort of give the sponsors a go.
We've got a couple of really amazing. Well, we've got lots and lots of amazing sponsors. Ones that sort of come to mind more recently that have really sort of stepped up the mark to support us. We've got G3PL, which is part of the Hamilton group. Obviously at our level of football, we invite players from overseas, and they've been really fantastic in supporting us finding work for those players as well. We've got Horizon Pools, which is a massive sponsor for the club. They're based in Melbourne, the other side of Melbourne, and saw what the program was about and sort of engaged with us and has been an amazing support of us. We've got P3 Recovery, which is phenomenal. To have a recovery centre that's on board like they are with us. Yeah. Supporting the club is fantastic.
And we talk, just to interrupt you there, we talk about the professionalism and taking things to an elite level. Having sponsors like that is so important to to develop the players, but in a very, very professional environment.
Yeah. And the gent there, Ben, such a knowledgeable guy, he's I had a chat to him at the start of the year and the information that he just oozes out of him. So when the girls get down there, they can sort of, we've got vouchers that they've given us for the girls to go and do a bit of recovery on their own, but he also has the girls as a group down there, and sort of the information that he gives the imparts on the players is invaluable to to their growth and their future as footballers. Yeah. I didn't have it when I was 16 or 17 years of age, and I'm sure you didn't.
Are so lucky.
They've got that information, so it is fantastic that they've got that.
Now, obviously, having good sponsors is important, but also having a good team off the field in the boardroom. Here's an opportunity to give a plug to some of the people on the committee as well. Because,
all the committee.
You're the face of the club, but there's so many people behind the scenes that we don't get to hear about.
I'm sure there's prettier faces in the club than mine. But
you said it, not me.
Yeah, there's some wonderful people and really passionate people. So Andrew come on as a VP this year. We've got Corey, who's a parent of an under-13s, has just come to the club, taken on the treasurer role. He's been fantastic at understanding of where we're at with the finances. Sarah has sort of moved. She'd volunteered originally as a treasurer into that role or voted into that role, but when Corey came along, we thought it best. And she's been fantastic as a secretary. But we've also been able to retain some beautiful people on the committee that are really passionate as well. So Georgie Wright, Georgina, Andrew, Whitelaw. So having those people around the club that have still got sort of the understanding of which is important to understand where the clubs come from. So you've got a bit of continuity there as well. And then Steve, who's our coach of the under-17s, he's come on. Nikolovsky, he's come on and sort of taken on that football operations sort of role. So it's really good to have someone with a football head sort of looking after that sort of stuff. And we've got our TD Jen Plante, so they've been working pretty closely, and having a female TD at the club is absolutely invaluable. She's a wonderful asset to the club, and we really enjoy having her around. So it's a really good setup,
and a great team. From all accounts.
Yep.
We're at Myers Reserve, which is the home ground of Geelong Galaxy, but not for long. Unfortunately, over the off-season, there was a little bit of a split there. And we're not going to go too much into it, apart from, we'll let you say what you can, I suppose, say in front of the cameras. But unfortunately, that has now meant that you're seeking a new home ground. Yeah, has there been any developments with regards to that?
Yeah, we've engaged with a number of different clubs, and, we've got a sunset period at the moment till May. So we've engaged with a few other clubs. I think just strategically with a new committee, it sometimes happens that that things weren't aligning. So we've had a couple of conversations with a few different clubs, and I'm sure in the near future we'll have a decision that we can educate everyone on.
Yeah, so stay tuned for that. That no doubt will happen in the very short term future, because I think it's mid-May or something like that. That's
start of May. Yeah.
Well, mate, we wish you all the best.
Just saying that these guys are still being great. So it's all good. We'll find somewhere that sort of shoots our strategic plan a bit better, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, no, awesome, and that's great to hear as well. I think the Geelong football community, we've spoken about this on many occasions, and it is a wonderful community, some wonderful people. And look, sometimes things just don't work out, but that's fine. It doesn't necessarily mean now we have to hate each other or whatever the case may be.
Absolutely.
But it certainly seems that there's some really good months ahead, years ahead for Geelong Galaxy United. Yep. And with the president like yourself at the helm, we wish you all the very best, mate. Not just for 2026, but for certainly well beyond after that.
Appreciate it very much.
Good on you.
Thanks for having me.
AARON Pettman, the president of the Geelong Galaxy United. when we return, we've got the Jake Butler, who is the coach of the senior women's team here at Geelong Galaxy United.